Officer here at Maroba. I'm aging in place. It's my 28th year now, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our refurbished Lodge Auditorium and to bring you up to date with where things are at during this third year of the pandemic and where we're up to in this latest phase. So I'll also welcome those online that are going to be viewing this later, so thank you for your participation. And it's great to have Sally here today. One of our residents has asked could she come along so she can report back to her family. So you're probably all very aware of the situation with COVID in the community, that it is escalating rapidly. There are over 1,000 aged care homes across the nation, so there is no state doing worse than another, though I think New South Wales is doing worse than everybody else. But it's no respecter of state or no respecter of person. So in our region, I can report, I got a report just this morning from our local health district, and there was 30 facilities with outbreaks, and just in a few short days it's gone up to 42 facilities with outbreaks. So that has a corresponding burden on our health system and the workers in the health system, because as we know, when disease spreads in the community, it affects people who work, and therefore it affects people who work in our health system and in our aged care system. So for Maroba, since the beginning of July, we've had 16 staff impacted with COVID, and I was one of them. Fortunately, I wasn't at work at the time of contracting the illness, and so therefore I didn't impact anyone else on site. But we do know that the burden of COVID can be quite debilitating and making people very sick, whilst others are not experiencing any symptoms. So can the scientists pin down this disease? I think it's very hard. There's no one way to have COVID, and we know that it's also impacting residents in different ways. My own auntie had COVID at the end of last year. She's a very frail lady in our dementia unit, and she did not have any symptoms, didn't even miss a meal. Yet others have passed away because of COVID. We've had 3 deaths here at Maroba since the outbreak began since 2020, but in that outbreak last year. But since that time, we've got antivirals have been fast-tracked to aged care facilities. Some months ago, we took on a very big supply of those, and then we were able to brief our GPs, I think we also sent information out to families to let you know that those were available, to start thinking about that, so that if your loved one did get COVID, that would be a first step treatment for them if they're able to tolerate it. Now, when I say if they're able to tolerate it, has anyone here had the antivirals? And you have to be over 70 to be able to be eligible for an antiviral, and they're 4 big capsules twice a day. So as we know that frail older people don't always tolerate new medicines or that sort of volume of medicines, but fortunately those that have been offered the antivirals here at Maroba have been able to tolerate it and have done quite well. And I have to say, I've seen it even in my own family, where someone over 70 was able to take the antivirals, did very well, much better than me, and our residents have been doing quite well on the antivirals, and we have not had any further residents pass away from this insidious virus. So that's good news that treatment's available. Now, unfortunately, we're hearing from the Commonwealth, they're urging us to offer that. And when we've had our outbreak management meetings with Commonwealth Public Health Unit in past months, they say, oh look, have you thought about offering those residents antiviral treatments? And we said, well, they're already on it. We've got a very tight protocol. In fact, while I was on leave, I was watching the correspondence go between the RN and the GP on a Sunday morning through to Sunday night to make sure that Monday morning first thing those medications were there and available for that resident, and they got them within 28 hours of being diagnosed over a weekend, which is pretty spectacular because the medical advice is that they receive them within 5 days of being diagnosed. So we've got a pretty tight time frame around that for our residents, and that is working. Now, they do have side effects, and one of those side effects might be gastrointestinal upset and diarrhea. And you know, I say, well, that's great because it's getting rid of the virus, because we know that it sheds through the gut, and we've got people here that probably have a better explanation than I have, but those side effects have been tolerable for our residents. So there's some good news. The other news around the protections for residents is the vaccinations. So we've been very diligent trying to make sure residents are up to date with their vaccinations. We have a number of residents that still need other vaccinations, and that's to do with timing of them coming in, timing of them having COVID before, a whole range of things, and their personal choice of just not wanting to have it. So we've contracted, we applied in February with the department to be a service that can deliver our own vaccinations for our residents and our staff. You wouldn't believe it, we didn't get the contract to review and sign till June. I did that within a 24-hour turnaround, and it expires in September. Have we got any supplies yet? No, not one dose of vaccine. So the Commonwealth on a meeting yesterday were urging facilities to get the vaccinations done. Don't wait till you've got half a dozen residents, get them done immediately. We can't even get supplies from our GPs, who have been exceptional in supplying us with vaccines if they have them in the past. So the messaging from the Commonwealth is, you know, cheering us on and get that job done. But in the absence of having supplies, I'm very happy for you all to see our beautiful vaccination refrigerator and all the processes that go with that, but it's empty. There isn't any supply. Now, we hope that supply might be here 12th of August, so we're still 2 weeks away. And yet we know how important the vaccination is whilst this virus is still peaking, because it hasn't yet peaked. So what we're working very closely on, of course, is not just care, that's our primary focus, but to deliver that care is workforce. Absolutely vital to the outcomes that are occurring throughout the nation in aged care. So we've come up with a crisis plan, and we've been managing to date, and that's because our teams have just been so willing to step in. Now, even yesterday afternoon before I went home, our roster person, Hilary, said, Viv, we're going to need you in the morning in Nobbies. I said, right, okay. So I made sure my scrubs were there in my office ready, so that I got up early. I came in early and ready to get into my scrubs and get to work in Nobbies. And they said, you wouldn't believe it, we've actually got an extra staff member on. You're not going to stand down. Now that's great news, because what that tells me is that people are filling the gaps, people are willing to do the extra time, the extra shifts, even though they're tired, and that's how we're managing. Our maintenance staff, John, you know, some of you, if you haven't met John yet, you'll get to know John. He loves to be involved to support residents around their meal times, to help them with their meals. Tracy, Rachel, our operations and human resource people, our payroll clerk goes down and makes beds. Everyone in this building is stepping in to action and fill even the slightest gap. Our activities people, if we are clinically short and that person has clinical qualifications, then they will be diverted and put into a care role. Our admin people that are doing nursing relevant work will also step out of their roles and into care roles, whether it's for an hour, 2 hours, or a whole shift, or even a double shift. One of our ladies that does helps with rostering and quality control has volunteered to do night shifts if necessary. So we've got a lot happening. We're also looking at our volunteer team who have many skills, particularly in the social realm, and we believe that if we have to take our staff off social engagement, we want that backfilled. So we're asking our volunteers, and they'll be coming in the next week and having another reorientation around those specific roles, because you know, life without bingo can be pretty awful if that's what you look forward to. So we'll be looking at having that. So we're not saying, oh well, we just can't do activities, that's not our priority. No. The well-being, the emotional and social well-being of every one of our residents is absolutely critical to how they come through this 2.5 years. It's vital to us. So we've got people saying yes, they're happy to come in and do that. We've contacted all the agencies. How many agencies do we work with? Six agencies. Now, we used to only work with 2 or 3, but we've expanded our contacts and asked for pre-booking staff for 2-week blocks so that we can secure them whether we know we need them or not. So that means if we don't need them, we'll have extras. We won't be sending them away. We've also, one of our senior RNs was due to have a clinical placement. We've called her and we've asked her would she be prepared to postpone that clinical placement. Yes, she has. And so she's working with us and will be on standby, ready to fill any registered nurse gaps. We're looking at 12-hour shifts for our care team leaders. Not all of them, but where we might have 2 areas, like 2 suburbs, we might say one of them will get to do a 12-hour shift if we look like we can't fill the afternoon one. So, and the other, then we'll have 2, one in the morning, one on the afternoon on the other side. So we're looking at those options to make sure that all medications are given out in a timely way and that nobody misses out. We're also looking at, if necessary, that we might have to go to, again, similar arrangement with the registered nurse shift. We might have to do a 12-hour shift for one of the shifts to make sure that coverage is there. We've also engaged with the government surge workforce. Now, you've probably heard a lot about the surge workforce if you've been following the media, how the surge workforce, and excuse me being common, but I used to say that the surge workforce was somebody's wet dream because nothing ever materialised, and the government kept sprouting that they had this wonderful surge workforce plan, but it never eventuated. Our new government has actually worked that up, but what we have to remember, any surge workforce is actually coming from an existing pool of agency staff. They've just signed up to the surge platform that the government's provided. Now, it's great news that in a past week the surge workforce provided 2,000 shifts. Not one of them to us though. No. Every time we've asked for surge workforce, we haven't been able to get it. Our area health service, however, in our last couple of outbreaks, have been magnificent in supporting us with Hunter New England health staff. So technicians turning to care support and nurses and registered nurses, a whole range of staff. They've been excellent. But they're on their knees at the moment. So they're not likely, we've registered with them as well, that we're anticipating that we will get to crisis point if things continue as is predicted. So they said, look, we can't at the moment, but if you please ring, stay in touch with us. And they've been fantastic. They always hear us, they always pick up our call. The ADF, of course, is a possibility, but as we know, there are 250 ADF personnel that would go out in groups of 6, so there's only 12 teams, I've been told, and yet we know there's already over 1,000 aged care services with an outbreak. So look, that's again a lovely notion, but it's not going to solve our issues for Maroba, but we will ask. We will not hesitate to ask, because we know that in other facilities when the ADF comes in, the residents love it. Frail older ladies that have never eaten their breakfast are very happy to eat it for a soldier. So they're the stories that came out of ADF. So we would certainly welcome them. And the sorts of roles that they would perform would be very much around care support. Now, just for your interest, last September, I managed to get a meeting with the highest bureaucrats in the department to put forward my idea of a care support role, which wasn't a Cert 3, which wasn't a Cert 4, which wasn't an RE, but could come in and do the things that people no longer had time to do because they were doing so much around PPE and prevention and all those other things, and people were exiting the facilities because they could get more money in the NDIS. And the bureaucrat completely poo-pooed what I was offering and what I was suggesting, because I believed it would be something that was scalable and could be adopted across the sector that would fill an immediate need and gap. So, not to be put off, we started it here. We trialled it, we did great test piloting of it, and it's taken off here. So you'll see people in roles here, and it's called care support. So they're not showering someone, they're not lifting somebody, but they're helping them with their meals. They're around the table service, they're helping them in their rooms and different things. And that role, how many on our team now in that role?
We have 10 of them.
10. And they love it. And guess what? Some of them are saying, I'd like to do a course and be a carer, a formal carer. So that's another way we're addressing some of the workforce issues for our organisation. But it's very interesting, when I read the job description of what the ADF personnel will be doing, it's our care support role. That wasn't, no, that won't work, we won't be doing that. And in fact, in September, I was told, last September, look, it's no point us even discussing this further because the pandemic will be over. I said, well, again, you're dreaming, mate. You're dreaming. So anyway, we've got a great category of staff now that is working really well, and it's also where our other team members can step in, put aside their normal duty lists and be care support, and it's making a great difference. So the final piece that we thought may be helpful for residents and our families, if people are interested in being a partner in care, because as you know, when there's outbreaks, there's further restrictions and so forth in people coming in and out and what have you. But if you're a partner in care, then you can do some specific things with your loved one to support them and keep them connected to family in a very meaningful way. But it may take some anxiety out of the whole situation for you, because as you probably would have seen, the same as I did, people standing out the front gates of Newmarch House and St Basil's, and you know, they didn't know anything, nobody's communicating, there's no option to see people. If only I could have done that for Mum because nobody else fed her, or all of those terrible things. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I made a commitment to every resident and family member that I would be transparent and I would keep people informed of what we knew, that you wouldn't have to go digging around to find something out, you would hear it from me first. I also said that if there was a death at Maroba from COVID, you would hear it from me first, and yet the rules around that is that that's the health department's role is to announce deaths, but I wasn't prepared to. I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission, and so you got to hear those things from me first. So we want to be, again, completely transparent in what we're anticipating will come, what we're putting in place, and we're inviting you to be part of that story with us if there's things that you believe you could do. If you're available around mealtime and your loved one needs help with their meals, that's a great opportunity. So, well, look, I can come in on these days of the week and I can be that partner and support them. It may be companionship. Put them in a wheelchair or on their walking frame, bring them for a walk in the sunshine. Fresh air. Great. I mean, there's nothing more therapeutic than that option. Whereas people being able to leave their wing to do that is a bit stretched at this time. Now, I noticed Michelle was out walking residents in the sunshine yesterday, which was magnificent. Just one-on-ones, just taking them for a walk. But we can't do that with absolutely everyone, and not everyone wants to go out. We've got some residents that, you know, would be clawing at the doors so that you don't take them out, and that's okay too. But I think we've got a lot happening, and I'd love to just invite Tracy and Rachel just to add to the story, because I think you may have questions for us, and also just want to reassure you of what's happening around wellness, even when there's staff shortages and when an area is in isolation. And who noticed in the last couple of updates, we just changed the scenario a little bit so that people on the hill can have a visit, because what you must realise is, yes, there's more risk to you then. And given that, you know, we're saying to residents who have COVID, we want them to stay in their room, but not everyone is cognitively competent to know to stay in their room, and then they're out touching everything, and that keeps putting people at risk. So even though we're clean, we don't always see where someone is touching. So we felt in the scenario for the hill, we were able to say we can change this up a gear and invite people to still come and have that visit. We think visiting is critical, but this Partners in Care option just takes that a bit further, that you're committing to, you know, not just sit there and, you know, maybe feel like, oh, well, gee, these mum's rooms could be tidied up. You know, well, you can be the one that tidies it up. You can be the one that helps make the bed. You know, things like that. Real, you know, rolling your sleeves up, I guess, and joining us and know what it's like with us to be able to participate in those things. So Tracy and Rachel, Rachel is our Executive General Manager for People and Culture, and Tracy is our General Manager on the Executive for Operations, so she oversees all those care issues. So Tracy, I'd like to just fill everyone in on how we're going with wellness and what's happening in that space.
Well, it's nice to see everyone back and actually in the common area today, so welcome. Yes, our main concern is that we still put our residents at the focus of what we do, and certainly give them a quality of life still living here, even though we're going through a pandemic. So we keep looking at ways where we can make sure the residents still get to enjoy life. So what we've been doing throughout this period is making sure our residents are still getting social activities, also one-on-ones, especially in our lockdown areas, so they have social contact even in our areas where our residents are living with COVID at the moment, going into their rooms. So we make sure our exercise programs happen, so they'll go into the areas. We leave that to the last of when we've done all our other activities with our residents. We try and base someone in there so they can support the team and make sure our residents are still getting socialisation, being able to get out on the verandas, going for one-on-one walks, any programs around wellness or physical or anything like that, we make sure that they get it in their room or out in other areas. So when people have been going to the gym, it's important that we keep their mobility well, and they really enjoy going to the gym, but unfortunately if it's in a lockdown, the suburbs in a lockdown, they're not able to go to there. However, we send our teams into that area and we just do a different type of program without all the equipment. So please be assured that we do continue with the programs and what the residents need. It's just in a different way. And our teams still all go in there, but they're all dressed up in their PPE to attend to that. So it's really important. And it's been great over the last couple of months, last month, where we've been able to try and change things up a bit, where we're not locking down the whole service, that we're really concentrating on trying just an area at a time, so we can live normally in this environment during a challenging COVID. So it's very important that we try and make everything as normal as possible, and it's so great to have achieved these renovations because they've taken twice as long as what we expected, because we started right on just before the beginning of the pandemic, and it's nice to give residents their home back in a lovely way that they can use it. So I always enjoy coming in now over here and seeing residents sitting at the fireplace. There's always residents there, so it's nice. So we can't wait for the day that they lift the rules where you're able to come and enjoy our facilities and sit in the common areas, and hopefully that'll be soon. But be assured, we're always looking at our updates coming through to see what other changes we can make to make things better, to engage, because the residents do miss you, and we miss not being able to have you come in, and especially for the residents. So it is hard for us to see that we can't accommodate the residents in that way, but we feel this partners in care, us joining together, because we don't know what is coming. Hopefully we've planned for the worst, but hopefully it won't get to that point. But we want to ensure that we never sacrifice the care and service delivery we give to our residents to meet their outcomes. So we really want to look at different ideas of how we can do this, and even for the residents that need that family contact, it's fine to get on a FaceTime, and it's been one of our avenues, or Skype or the telephone, but it's just not the same as personal contact. So if we can figure out ways that we can keep managing and improving that for our residents during these times, we will continue to do that. But yes, I just want to say that we are doing everything we can for the residents, and when we're not sacrificing any service delivery, we're just doing it in a different way. And even when we're short of staff, as Viv says, we all get in, we roll up our sleeves, and we make sure we redivert all our roles, and they become, if they're not qualified under a care qualification, we become care support people. So there's plenty we can do. Meal support, we can help socialise with the residents, we can help make beds, we can help tidy their rooms, we can do all those things for the residents that we need to do from that perspective. So we've got staff with big hearts here. They've all stepped up during our challenging times to make sure that we continue to look after the residents the way that they want to be looked after, and make sure that they have that quality of life now. So I thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here, and you can always contact me. So
Yeah, we'll open up for questions just as soon as Rach said something, and we'll, we can do questions.
Hello, Rachel. I haven't met many of you, but I'm really pleased. I forgot about the camera. I'm really pleased to be here this morning with you. My role is to support our teams to ensure that we can deliver all of the needs that our residents have and meet the needs of our residents. It's been a tough couple of years in the aged care sector, as all of us know. It's been tough for residents, it's been tough for families, and it's been tough for staff. We are really fortunate here at Maroba because we have a team of staff who really do want to work hard, who are really committed to our residents, who have really big hearts. But it's been a tough run, and we've had about 50% of our current team who have been off with COVID over the last 3 years. So we've got some newer staff that are showing up, obviously not having COVID. They may have had it prior to joining us. We've got 99% of our staff who have had their 3rd vaccination shot. We're heading along our 4th vaccination shot, so we've got some team members who have already had their 4th booster, and we'll start that campaign on the 12th of August with some great vigour. So you can be reassured that our teams are stepping up. We're not having to ask them to do that. They're volunteering to make sure they're protected as they can be to support your loved ones. In terms of COVID, it's been challenging, but as you all know through the media, we've also had the challenges of influenza in this current cycle. And at the current time, as Viv said, we've 16 people out since the 1st of July with COVID. Most of those people are out for a minimum of 10 days because they can't come back to work when they're symptomatic. Current time, that's 6, so we've had 10 come back, we've got 6 out. But alongside of that, we've got people who are facing RSV or influenza, and they're out for minimum.
We're having a procedure.
Yes, minimum of 5 days. We've got another 6 staff who have put off procedures, fairly significant medical procedures, because you couldn't get them done during COVID. So when the world opened up, they've booked in for their procedures. So we've got other staff off for that. And then we've got other staff who have been holding off on having holidays because all of last year we seemed to be in and out of facing crisis. So we've also got people, and we've got to let people have a break, so that they can fatigue. So it's tough for our teams, and we're so fortunate here at Maroba that people keep coming through. We have welcomed a lot of new staff, and I'm sure that your family members will say, sometimes it's a bit of a changing faces we see. We don't always see the same faces, and we're really conscious of that. We try where we can to keep the same teams in the same suburbs so that they do have good relationships and build good relationships. But when you've got people out, we sometimes have to move people around. When we've got new people joining a team, that can take some time. And then when you're using agency to come in, agency is so critically important. I know that it's challenging when they're not our own teams all of the time, but they are critically important because otherwise we would not have enough hands to be able to do the work that we need to do. And so we're working on building strong relationships with those team members. But I guess I'm here today to say we're really positive. We've got a really clear plan about what we're doing in our team space. We're trying to open up many pathways so that people will come and join us here at Maroba. We're excited about what we're seeing through that. We continue to get people coming and wanting to work at Maroba. We're excited about opening up our volunteers again. So anybody you know that wants to volunteer, anybody you know that would love to work in aged care, all that they need is a big heart. They want to know how to work hard and have some fun and joy, find the joy, help make people smile. If you know anyone like that, please send them to us. Volunteering and of course Partners in Care is a really exciting venture for us as well. So it's great to meet you this morning.
And we've got a form Rachel will be handing around.
It's just over there.
Oh, it's just there?
Yep.
So we might hand that around if you're interested in being a partner in care. So we identified one person per family, or if there's 2 people in the family that will coordinate different days, that's okay too. So if you could complete those, that would be a great help. Now, some questions were asked for people I'll start with the questions that came from online first. So, can I be a partner in care on the weekend, or is it only weekdays? So we know that people work, and we know that residents need the same support on a weekend. So the answer is yes, if fully cooperative with check-in requirements and a negative RAP.
So again, with check-in, you'll notice there's not someone sitting at the door now checking all of that. So we're relying on the absolute honesty and integrity of every family member coming in, because we just can't keep resourcing that. It's taken enormous resources. As you know, on I think it was Easter Sunday and Mother's Day, our team members, our admin team members, and me included, came in on those days so that we could get visitors in. But we can't keep doing that on a routine basis. So if somebody wants to come in on a weekend, we're just relying on any day, relying on your absolute integrity and truthfulness to say, yep, I can be relied upon to have a negative rat, I can be relied on to complete the check-in honestly, I can be relied upon to wear my mask and do the right thing. Great. Then that's a person we would welcome on a weekend. Can I be a partner in care in the suburb or if Maroba is in lockdown? Yes. If the risk can be managed, well managed. So if you're not a person that complied with masks, or you don't wash your hands, or you don't want to be bothered with a gown, because if we're in lockdown and you're going into a lockdown area, you'll be in full PPE, and you have to cooperate with that and be prepared that it is sweaty. It's through the summer we were having to say to staff, wear shorts and a tank top. Otherwise you're going to expire from dehydration, because it's like wearing a raincoat with a Woolies bag over your head. That's what it's like. I'm not joking. It's like that. So again, yes, we want our residents to be supported even when we're in an outbreak. But if someone does have COVID, what we say to you, now you might have just got over COVID yourself, so your risk is less in that next 4 weeks. We'd say minimise your visit to 15 minutes, or no more than half an hour or less than half an hour, because we know in the transmission there's those some rough times. So we're just saying we want you to be aware of the risk to yourself so that you can keep coming, rather than, oh, you picked it up on the first day of being here. So things like that. So I'm happy to take any questions from the floor. Fire away. Yes.
We live in a state, so we come down for blocks of time. So can we still be available and do things like that?
When you're in blocks of time, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so you would coordinate that with families. So if the local person has decided to be a partner in care, now that doesn't mean you have to be here every single day, right? But you would nominate, well look, I can do Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays or something. You'd nominate what you're able to do. You might say, right, well you're off duty now because you've arrived, and you can be the partner in care during that time. Now, whilst we're still able to have normal visiting, you can still visit, but it's just that it's going that extra step, committing to, while I'm here, I will do these additional things while I'm here. That will support the resident and the team. Because I always say, I treat our families as partners, even before that term became legislated, the Partners in Care term, that you're partners with us to get this done. You know your loved one better than we will ever know them. So the more we get to know you, the more you get to know us. While you're sitting in that room, you might think of things that we could do better. You might think of things that, oh gee, I might get this for Mum because I think that would work better than, I hadn't realised that thing isn't working for her, or whatever. So there's lots of ways we can do this together. Yes?
Excuse me. Is this Partners for Care only your own loved one, or can it be anybody?
Now, it's the resident themselves. I should be saying, I want you to be my partner in care. So it's not just, oh look, I can be a partner for anybody. Someone might not have family and have a close friend they want to be their partner in care, and that's okay. So we won't be imposing on the resident. So it's something you might discuss with your loved one. But in terms of if you want to be a volunteer to support other people, then you might tick the volunteer box and say, well, look, I could help with the bingo, or I could help with reading the paper to a few of the gentlemen or the ladies.
There's two categories.
Yes, so if you want to tick both, you can tick both.
Say both,
Yes, because there's volunteer things that would be great. You know, just that small group of, you know, reading the paper or reading a book or, you know, telling stories or just having a chat. Because, you know, there's treasures.
Cards or something like that.
Cards, yes. Playing,
Revitalised the choir, so with someone who loves singing.
yes, singing.
And the residents love craft, so we don't always have a lot of people that are really into craft. Sometimes on our social engagement team that varies, so if anyone does any craft, that would also be good.
Is that you, Marie? Yes?
Or bridge, you know, some of those games
Yeah.
that are maybe a little bit particular, bridge or
Mahjong?
mahjong.
Which I can't even spell.
Yes.
Yes. So you could put both, volunteer or just volunteer if you think, oh look, I think I'd be great because, you know, Mum mightn't fancy me being in there helping her with more stuff, you know, because with that relationship with our parents, you know, sometimes it can be a bit funny, you know, feeling like you're going to be doing more intimate things or that may not be intimate to us, but for, you know, you might feel like you're crossing a line with your mother or father. I remember, you know, when my dad was unwell, I just couldn't bring myself to change his incontinence pad. It was like, you know, he's my dad. It was all right for my mother, and, you know, I do it with my eyes shut, but, you know, it's funny. It's weird, even though I'm a nurse, it's weird when those relationships with our parents, you know, can be different for all of us. It's just being sensitive to that, really, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Just in relation to what you need to do, obviously that's different for every resident, and probably depends, as you're saying, on the relationship and your own skills. But so how is that determined? Is that I mean, that seems to me like a lot of work with the people who are here, working out what everybody needs and then relating it to the partner.
Well, it's really, so the people that are coming in, so for instance, I can just give one example of a family I was talking to last year, and they were just really concerned. Their mother's teeth weren't so good because of her condition. She was needing to have treatment for that other condition, and it meant she couldn't have a tooth out until 6 months, and they were worried about her eating, that she was only eating desserts. I said, well, that's quite natural. We all like desserts. But I said, well, would you like to be a partner in care between her and her sister? So they come in different days, so that probably 5 days of the week, they are there for the main meal of the day to assist their mum. And while they're there, they might fossick in the room and, you know, just keep it tidy and orderly and so on. So So it wasn't so much that we had to have a sit-down meeting to work out what we needed. It might be you start with just the companionship. And so, because some of our residents don't need help with their meals, they're quite okay.
No, but that my mum probably doesn't need very much.
That's right.
To do very much.
Yes, but it might be the companionship.
But definitely during lockdown, that was difficult for her.
Yes.
I do visit a couple of times.
Yeah.
But just in my situation, I'm the only family member who is around here. So I'm the only one who does come and do things for her, but I can't come 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So the commitment isn't 5 days a week, it's not 7 days a week. You determine.
Different for each.
Yes. So it might be mainly companionship. You might, is she able to walk or in a wheelchair?
No, she's very much able to walk. I think
Okay.
talk about doing your walks with people.
Yes.
She's one of the renegades who just wanders around or
Yeah. Well, imagine doing that walk with her.
Yeah.
You know, you get your vitamin D too,
Yeah.
and so does she.
that would be great. And then you can identify, you can maybe then sit in the room and just say, oh, why don't we change out this summer wardrobe or this winter wardrobe, or, you know, let's do that together. And because, you know, we have not been able to get to wardrobes, believe me. So, you know, drawers are bulging, you know, there's still summer stuff and it should be winter stuff. And really that we rely on families to look after the personal effects of residents.
So in terms of the availability, it's not like you're going to put down like, you know, Tuesday at 2 o'clock or anything like that. It's just like a couple of times a week or as required type of thing.
Yeah.
So that you would tick the box partner in care for that?
Yes. Yes.
Even though you can't nominate a particular day?
That's right. Yeah. But if you can nominate particular days, then in our planning, you know, or you might message into we'll say, look, I was going to come today, just letting you know I won't be there. That, you know, that would be helpful.
Well, I just come in, when I visit mum, I just come in, tidy your drawers up, go through them, tidy up the wardrobe.
Perfect.
Things away that's been left out.
Put her hearing aid.
Yeah. And look, hearing aids are a nightmare, you know, because remember, all the, you know, lots of young people are, caring for older people, have never dealt with a hearing aid. And look, I've been at this for 28 years at Maroba, and if you asked me to fix your hearing aid, I'd go and get someone else. Why? Because they're all different. I'm not familiar with that particular person's equipment, and so I don't pretend that I know all about hearing aids. But if you...
It makes sense because you're the person, I'm the person who
That's right, that's right. Yeah, so if you can attend to those things, and instead of keeping a record of how many times we didn't have a hearing aid in, that would be a great help. Because, you know, there's so many other focuses, and yes, we want to get the hearing aid. We constantly stressing to staff, you know, someone being able to hear is really, really important. It really helps them engage with life. But sometimes, if they can't find it immediately, they get distracted, get the resident out to their breakfast, but then they get distracted and don't get back to find the hearing aid, because guess what? Residents put them in pillowcases. They go to the laundry. We never see them again. And it's like, wow, this is exciting, more exciting by the minute. So that's one of the tricky things. So if you're on top of what's in the room and, you know, that's great. That's a real help. Did that answer that question?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's to me, it's a fuzzy
There's no fixed.
That's right, because everybody's different.
Yeah, and that's how we treat everybody. So when, you know, when the mandates for vaccines lifted, you know, what did we do here? Well, we didn't stick with, you know, other organisations said we're definitely not letting people in without a vaccine. The thing is, the person without a vaccine is at more risk than we are. And we will assess each one individually as to, well, you know, are they in a shared room? What's the risk? Is somebody unwell at the moment or whatever? And we will manage that, because, you know, denying people visitors, it's already been 2.5 years of that. We want to be able to help people get to see their loved one, not further push them away. So we will assess that each time. So, is that helpful? You've got a lot of information today, I've told you a lot of the story, and they're the things that you know, we all get together on and try and solve. Our staff are speaking up if they think we could be doing something better. I welcomed new family this week, and I said to them, I'll promise one thing, I'll let you down. Our teams will let you down, but promise us that you will tell us quickly if you think things aren't quite right, or that we aren't understanding a situation that you know uniquely and we don't. Just keep communicating with us. That's the most important thing, because if we're going to be partners, if we're going to be in this together, it's that communication that will make it all work. And settling an older person in that's given up so much to come into strangers, you know, that's a tough gig for older people. You know, it's a tough gig when we move house and we're younger and more resilient. But I do say this,
what I've seen through this pandemic is resilience off the charts from our residents. They never cease to amaze me at how resilient they are. When I go to them and I'm apologising about this and apologising about that, Viv, get over it. It's the world we're living in. It's how it was. You know, I was around in the war. This is sweet. You know, this is okay. We've got food on our tables. We've got a roof over our heads. We've got fresh clothes put in our wardrobes every day. Stop worrying about us. That's what they do. I would just say, wow. You know, here we are worrying ourselves sick about the state of the situation, and yet they've lived through worse horrors than this and are teaching us about resilience. And, you know, we've got a lot to learn from our residents. I call them our national treasures because of what's within every vessel, and they're willing to share it. So thank you for entrusting your treasures to us, and especially in a time of a national and international health crisis. We appreciate that you trust us, and if there's a time when you don't, please let us know so that we can make those adjustments, whatever adjustments we need to make for you to regain that trust. And of course, if you're not happy with something we're doing or have done, we put on the updates regularly who you can contact if you would like to make an independent outside of us complaint, if you're not satisfied with our complaint mechanisms that we have. We find the most effective complaint mechanism is the bumping into someone you know in the hallway. It's because you get action straight away. And that's a great thing here. We can act, we're nimble, and we can act straight away and then deep dive into why did things happen that way. So, any further questions? Well, thank you so much for giving up your morning to come, and if you'd like to give those forms to Tracy and Rachel, or if you want to take them away and think about it, that's okay as well, and make sure they get back to attention to Viv. That'll do it. It's a three-letter word. That's all you've got to remember. Attention to Viv, and I'll make sure it gets to Tracy and the team that needs it. So thank you, and thank you online for being patient and sitting through this. Thank you. Bye.